Keysha, what's going on?
A little tardy. I was trying to do some of these curls. I didn't even get my baby hairs together. Hey
Hey,
guys.
it's all good. It's all good. What's going on?
Man, same old. Nothing much. Just trying to stay
You
corona
out
free.
in you in LA right now, or are you back in the D?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
You in LA
I'll
right
be
now?
back in Detroit probably the end of February maybe.
Okay. You
Yeah.
do a lot. That's what I was gonna say first, man. Not a lot of back and forth, but you be home a lot. Like, what goes into that? Why you back at the crib so much?
Cause I mean, once the pandemic hit, it was like super slow. Like comedy still has been shut down, with the exception of my boy Kev on stage does Keep Your Distance comedy, where it's like maybe 10, 15 people in the audience. It's outdoors. They built the stage outdoors, and then it's live stream, so people can watch it from
Right.
anywhere. But outside of that, the comedy clubs are closed. Auditions are like far and few in between. They've started back shooting some things. I was supposed to work on a project actually Friday,
Okay.
and they had to shut it down because somebody got COVID.
So
So
what
it's
is that?
like
I mean, what is
I
that
still
like
go
for
home.
you? What is that like for you? Seeing that that's your profession, and the fact that everything's been shut down the way it's been shut down, and like you said, you might be able to have something popping, but then it's like, nope, somebody got COVID. Like that start go.
Yeah.
What's that been like for you?
Um, it can be slightly frustrating, but I try not to make, I just try to make the best of every situation. But it's been times that I came back here, like I came back here because I was going to work on another project, and two of the producers ended up getting COVID, and they hit me like, hey, we got to cancel and reschedule. We don't know when. So it's a thing of like, damn, I could have stayed at the crib. But I'm not tripping because I understand that that's just the climate that we're in, and I'd rather be safe and we got to cancel the shoot than we going to just try and thug this out, and now we all out here just coughing.
Yeah, I got you. So let's go back a little bit. Like I just mentioned, you being from Detroit, you born and raised. Uh, Tell me a little bit about what that was like for you, because you rep your city hard. Everybody that know Keysha E know she rep her city. So what
I
what was it
always.
like just growing up in Detroit?
You know what's so funny? It's not what people think. I hate the image that people have of Detroit. It's like Africa. People who haven't been to Africa think it's all starving babies and people dying of AIDS. And I'm like, really? That shit is LA. Or think it's lions just walking around on the street. Especially when I grew up. Because you got to think too, like Detroit had been a thriving city for decades. But like, it was just what I felt was normal. I mean, I grew up in a big house, a big backyard. I played sports, did extracurricular activities in school. I didn't see any of the. It's funny. I was talking to my homegirl had a game, a small little game night the other night, and everybody over there was pretty much like actors, and we were talking about Snowfall. And I was like, yo, I love the show, and I love Homeboy. Damn, I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but the lead character. But I was like,
Right.
this last season got to be a bit much for me because it was just too many crackheads. And somebody was like, you from Detroit? And I'm like, nigga, I didn't grow up around crackheads. I don't know what it is that y'all thought, but that's
Right.
not what it was. It was just, but I did grow up, and I think part of my, I can't even, well, I can say it's a small part. I mean, the bigger part is just that I'm a black person, but part of my appreciation and love, and I'm super, super, super pro-black, is that Detroit is or was, now it's gentrified, being gentrified, one of the blackest cities in the U.S. So it's like I grew up around my people, and that was always something I guess I never even thought about at the time because it was just the norm for me. But
Right.
something I think just kind of helped to shape like me loving who I am and loving my people and being a black. Like I never felt. I know this is probably off subject. I read this book. I've been reading a lot of books by black women authors, and I'm hearing them talk about how, like, yeah, because as a black woman, you feel like you couldn't do this or your hair was this or you. And I'm like, nah, I never felt that. But I grew up around all black people, and I just never had that experience. So I love being from Detroit. It's a big
Yeah.
city, um, and it has like a little small southern. Our parents or grandparents are from the south, so you still kind of have that vibe, that feel.
Right. So a part of being from Detroit, anybody that follows you also will know like you're family oriented as well, right? So I always see you, whether it's your brothers, your parents, cousins, how did that help you in your transition being so, how did your family help? Because being so far away from home, I'm sure you missed them. What was that like for you and how did they
Yeah.
help you as you made that move?
It's funny because they thought I was just talking. Like, you doing what? Because this was right after I graduated from grad school. So they like, helped me to understand why you got a master's degree, what we doing here. But they was like, you know, we don't understand it, but if this is what you want to do, then we're going to support it. So, it was times when it was kind of frustrating because like when you get out here, you're doing like student projects or you're doing stuff for free. My mom, first thing, every time I say I book something is like, is it paying? And so that excitement kind of goes away. Like, damn, mom, I just got here yesterday. No, it's not.
Right.
But very supportive in the sense of like, I could always call them, you know, if I needed anything. I remember my first year out here, I moved in August. That December for Christmas, I was like, I can't afford to go home because the flights from LA to Detroit around the holidays is like $700, $800.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't say, you know me, my little pride. I didn't want to say why. And I was talking to two of my cousins, one on my mom's side, one on my dad's side. And Christmas is like one of my favorite holidays. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm not coming or whatever I said, but I didn't say why. And it was like, what? And then as I get ready to get off the phone with my cousin, she's like, yeah, I will get you a ticket or something she said about a ticket. And I'm like, huh? Like, no. And she's like, Keysha, if everybody put in $10, my nigga, like as big as our family is, you'll get home. And they did that, which was like, meant the world to me. So my family like are very supportive, and they're like always there. I can always, you know, even when they don't understand certain things in the industry, I can still, you know, talk to them. And they still support it, you know, so.
Okay. So for people who don't know, I've known Keysha now, what, like 15 plus years. You know, we went to undergrad together at Eastern Michigan University. And one of the things I remember...
Your thing in the question box, I'm sorry, but I couldn't find a picture. I was like, I know I got a picture somewhere. One of the things that I remember standing out though, like right around the time we were graduating, I remember you saying like, I'm gonna be an actress. Mm-hmm. But I never had heard you say it before. I never knew, you know what I'm saying? And then you was like, nah, like I got like a little mini reel. Like I'm for real trying to do this. So how long ago did you know like that's the move? Like that's what I'm doing? It was right around that time. I want to say freshman year of college was because I fell in love with acting like in the 3rd grade. I did a play, but it was kind of the thing that honestly my parents didn't support. You know what I mean? It was like, you want to do it? You want to act? Girl, bye. So, and then I had a lot of other activities. Like I was playing sports and I was playing like taking violin lessons, piano lessons. So that kind of got put on the back burner. And then I would say around college, maybe senior year of high school, college was when I was like, yo, I really want to get into this, but I just didn't know how. And in Detroit, it's not a whole lot. Like now they're doing more, but it wasn't a whole lot of resources. So it was sometime in college, like freshman year was a thought, but it was kind of still like way off. And then around the time I was talking to you, because I think you was probably one of the first people I ever said that to, was when I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to make this shit happen. And it was like, I need to get to LA. So and I took a class there, but it wasn't what's up. I got out here and my acting coach was like, yeah, take that off your resume. I was like, but I was trying to start.
Yeah. So what did you go to school for? Like what was plan B?
Originally, I went to school, undergrad computer information systems and computer engineering, grad school.
Okay.
So that was all, and I loved it.
I can't see you. I just can't see it. Like what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing.
You know, but I as a kid, I felt like that's what I was going to do. Like for real. You know, I fell in love with acting. I was like, I want to do something with computers. I just didn't know what. But when I got into the field, it was just like, I remember I went on an interview with technology, and it was like the number of hours a week was 2. And I was like, what? This ain't gonna work. And so I was just like, bored to death. Like, nah.
Yeah. When you first got out there, because you always hear the story, right? Like, I moved to LA with nothing, you know, starving artist. Like, that's always the story that you are told. What was those first months or year? What was that like for you out there?
The first year. So I actually came back after the first year. I don't even know if that I lasted a year. I was like, because I thought I was going to make my story up, right? I'm like, I'll just tell people that I was sleeping out in my car. But when I first got out here, LA is just a different place. I can't describe it in words. It's not like any other place. When you move, it just don't work like that. Right. So originally, I didn't know anybody. One of my closest friends, Carla, I came to visit with her one maybe like the year before. And one of her very good friends lived out here. So he was like, you can crash with me, you know, till you find a spot, whatever. I get there, my cousin came with me. Now, when we came to visit, he had this really nice house, and it was a little ways out, but I'm like, whatever. It's just him. Place is clean. When I get there, this nigga got like 6 cousins. It's like butt naked bitches in one room. I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like, no, this is not gonna work. So my cousin, like, I can't leave you here. She's like, we gotta go. So random as hell, I can't even say random, God. TC mom and her stepdad ended up moving out here, and her little sisters. He had got a job out here, and it was like quick. Like, he got the offer and they moved out here. So happened I was able to go stay with them for like a couple of months. And then I was trying to find a place, and the cost of living is so crazy out here. So it's like, not only is your apartment high, but then your security deposit, you about to drop like 4 racks, like, just to move in. I had a job lined up in my field. They ran a background check and said I killed somebody. So they took the job off of that.
Wait,
I swear. What? When I tell you, Marcus, I was like, this is only me. Only me does this shit happen to.
You be having the most random stuff happen.
Yeah. Yeah. People be like, where you get your material from? I'm like, life. I just wake up in the morning and I live. They said they ran a background check and said I killed somebody. So it was a whole thing, and I finally got it cleared up. I had to like contact one of my uncles back home. He works, he's a captain, lieutenant, I don't know, something in the police department. Contacted him like, hey, can you pull my stuff or whatever? And what happened, it was a car accident. And it wasn't aligned. Like, it said number of injuries, number of fatalities, or whatever. And for some reason, it wasn't lined right. And so it said 1, which was under like injury or something, but it looked like a fatality. Either way, I'm not applying to be a fucking bus driver. So help me to understand, if I did get into a car accident and somebody died, why are you not going to hire me? I don't understand. So that was the whole thing, because that, of course, changed like my whole plan. So it was a minute. I finally ended up moving into my own place, maybe like 3 or 4 months out here. I couldn't work in my field. I thought I could work in my field, still audition and take classes. I realized I couldn't. I ended up, I don't remember if I got fired or quit. It happened, it was like I'm about to quit, but they might have fired me first, because I was working on I was just like background on the Wayans Brother movie Dance Flick. And then they called me though for a part to play like a high school student. So long story short, I ended up missing a lot of work, and I was like, oh, my granddad died, even though he already died, like he re-died, whatever. And they wasn't buying it. And then once I was no longer working in my field, I'm like, oh shit, this is rough. Like, I can't even afford a Cold Stone every week. So I ended up moving back.
Okay.
Long story.
Okay. So that's another thing too, the whole moving somewhere and then coming back to the crib. How long was you there, and what was that time like for you back in the D?
So I was there for 2 years. It was supposed to be about 6 months. I was like, let me come back, let me regroup, and let me, make sure this is what I know it's what I want to do. But then once that struggle kicked in, it's like, oh shit. So I went back. It ended up being 2 months because I got comfortable being around my family. I started dating somebody. I started back working in my field. I think I was working for HP at the time. So it's like, oh shit, I got money again. But then it was like I couldn't shake that. Like this is what I have to do. So it ended up being like 2 years, and then my plan also was to save some more money, because I felt like that was the whole issue. And I remember my pastor kept checking in with me, and I used to coach with Tasha Smith, and she kept checking in with me because she didn't want me to go. She's like, what do you need? Come stay with me. You need money. You need this. And I'm like, no, I don't want a handout. I want to just go back and regroup. And my pastor was like, he kept checking. He was like, it's time for you to go. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going. He was like, no, God told me it's time for you to go. I'm like, but I don't have the amount that I had in my mind that I need to have saved. He's like, it's not about money. So I was like, all right. And maybe like less than a month later, I went ahead and moved. And since then, like, everything has worked out. So, but and then it was mentally, I was like, damn, I got to come back. I don't want nobody to know I'm here.
See, and that's the thing. When you go back, it's like, oh, I thought you was in LA. I thought you don't be wanting to deal with that. So I understand that part. So when you got back out there, okay, so what was, not to be cliche like big break, but when did you say, all right, things are clicking? What was like that job or that opportunity for you?
Honestly, it was a minute, because when I got back financially, everything worked, but I was in these LA streets. Like, I was at the day parties, the afternoon parties, the night parties. So I think it would always be little things. I feel like God always sends me little things when I'm feeling like discouraged. But I would say it wasn't until maybe the past 4 years really that I was like, okay, in terms of like in terms of me just seeing, in terms of like me booking something or working on something to where I'm like, okay. I think commercially I started doing commercials, and I do a lot of commercials. So I think that's when I kind of started feeling like, okay, because even though the goal isn't to just commercials, it's like I am still doing what I set out to do. I'm still acting. Commercials pay good money, so I am still financially, you know, secure in this. And then I don't know, maybe really I think comedy too. When I started doing comedy was really when I was like, okay, yeah, and
Yeah.
that was maybe like 3 years ago, maybe going on 4 years now.
I
Something like that.
remember, I'm like, I seen a couple joints. I'm like, man, they got Keysha smoking cigarettes. She got postpartum depression. I'm like, she
Right.
popping up everywhere. But I'm like, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? She getting work out there. Did
Yeah.
you ever like think that you would be in like one of like where you getting recognized, or were people like, yo, I just seen Keysha on TV? Like, how was that experience seeing yourself for the first time?
Um, it's still honestly weird. Anytime I see myself, it's still like, oh shit. Like it's been times where I've been watching TV and I was like, oh shit, that's me. Like, and didn't really, it's weird. And it's like, I think also we're our biggest critics. So I'm also looking from that standpoint. I'm judging from that way. I would say this last project I was in, For the Love of Jason, the sitcom on UMC, was probably one of the first times that I watched it and it was one little part because I talk fast and I was like, damn, I should have
Right.
slowed that down. But I was like, I'm not tripping. That was probably the first time I watched something and I was just like, okay, I did that. You know what I mean? Like I'm always very
Yeah.
critical of it. So it's still kind of weird, and just like my little cousin, I was at home and she shows me a text from somebody that she go to high school with that saw something I was doing with All Deaf and was like, oh my God, is that your cousin? I love her. I watch her all the time. And I was like, huh? Me? Like, it's still kind of
Right.
weird a little bit, or it's just new, I guess,
Yeah.
to me.
I'm sure. I mean, you probably will never get used to it. I'm talking like I know, like, hey, so you'll never get used to it, like I know what's going on. But nah, so you mentioned like For the Love of Jason, like I see you in these things. Now that one I was a little surprised because I'm pretty sure you was licking fingers or something to that effect in there.
My
Is that
daddy was like,
accurate?
what the hell you got me watching? That was the hardest
I was
thing I've
like,
ever
man,
done.
she really acting because that is not up her alley.
Bruh, you know, I was like, so when I got on set, I was like, let me talk to the director real quick. So is he gonna lick my fingers or I'm gonna? He's like, no, you're gonna lick. I was like, also, no, I'm a germaphobe, so I was like, yeah, you about to go wash your hands. But but that was like one of my like I love Trill. I met him actually in acting class, so he's somebody who I already knew, and it made it a little easier to play that part. But yeah. I was like, let me go ahead and stick to comedy. That way I don't have to do these things.
Right. So you mentioned comedy. Obviously, you took your talents to the stage, and what lit the fire? Like you always been funny. Like you always been funny.
Thank
Always
you.
crack jokes. But I didn't think you was gonna really like grab the mic and get on stage. So what lit that fire in you to say, you know what, I'm gonna do comedy?
Comedy was never a part of the plan. You know me, right? Pregnant or die. It's like, why not, right? So I was at a comedy show. Like, whatever, I do it. Like, I have nothing to lose. Who cares? And I forgot I even agreed to it. Long story short, the day before the show, he's like, yeah, so I'll see you tomorrow, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll come through to the show. He's like, no, you're on the show. I'm like, oh, right, okay. Didn't know the first thing about telling a joke. Didn't know. So I started thinking like, damn, when I go to comedy clubs, I was like, let me just figure out how do you transition from one thing to the next. And other than that, I'm just going to roll with, we just going to talk about my life. Because shit
Right.
happens, like I lose jobs because they think I killed somebody. So I got on stage and did it. I was like, I need 10 minutes. He's like, I can't give you 10 minutes. He was like, 3 minutes. It might sound like it's not a long time. He was like, 3 minutes is a long time, especially if you bombing. And I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I need 10. So he agreed to 10. Then I got there, he was like, I can't do you like that. I can give you 7. And that's really too much. So I was like, all right, I think I ended up running the light a little bit. I did like damn near 9. And it was just great. It was like a great thing, but I never thought about, even though the response from everybody, from the audience and everything, I never thought about doing it again. It was just like, oh, this is there. Yeah. And then Afion Crockett was there, and afterwards he was talking to me like, how long you been on comedy? And I'm like, oh, 9 minutes, like what you just saw. He like, no, for real. I'm like, no, for real, like 9 minutes.
Right.
And so he kind of encouraged me to keep going, and then it was just like, acting was kind of slow. My agent she just really didn't have the juice. She was a sweet lady. She just didn't have the juice. So I wasn't really auditioning a lot theatrically. And somebody else that was there was like, hey, come do the show next week. I'm like, all right. And then I would do that show. And they was like, hey, come do this show. So then for like maybe a month or 2 months, I was just doing it just because I wasn't doing shit else. I was like, I'm free on Tuesday. I'm free on Thursday. And then it got to a point where I was like, yo, I like this. And then it was like, oh, shit, I love this. And then also it was like, I kept asking myself, and I have these times that most people have it, and I'm completely transparent with acting, because they say it takes like 8 to 10 years for most people, right? You don't know when it's gonna happen. So you just putting in the work. But then you also start to feel like, damn, am I not good? Or is this ever gonna happen? You have those moments of doubt. And so I kept trying to figure out how, right? Because I'm like, my agent not getting me out, like how? And then one day, I don't remember if I was in church or it might have been after I got back from church. I don't know. It just clicked in me like, don't worry about the how, worry about the why. Like, why do you do this? And with comedy, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, this is how. Like, this is just another avenue to be seen. If you're not getting the auditions, like the whole Tyler Perry joint, I booked from comedy. And then they've hit me since then. Like I said, I have my moments sometimes where God would just drop little seeds. One time it was a show I didn't get in for. Me and my homegirls was watching it, and I was feeling some kind of way. And that next morning, I wake up to a missed call from Tyler Perry Studios, like directly. So God always sends little things like keep going. But for me, comedy was like, okay, this is just another avenue. This is another way to get exposure. It's also another skill set, right? So if I'm going into audition, everybody can't do comedy. So yeah.
I like how you know what I'm saying, the Tyler Perry flex. You know what I'm saying?
No, that wasn't a flex. Listen, that was God.
Nah, but I always, if I don't send you a message, I'll text you. You know, anytime I see that you're doing something, I'm always super proud of you. But with this whole TGX, like I interview comedians, right? Mm-hmm. And I've sat down with DL and Cedric the Entertainer and Tony Rock. Thanks to you, of course, because you know what I'm saying, you looked out. But one of those things that I talk to comedians about, I'm always in love with your process. Mm-hmm. I've always been in love with the process of joke telling, how you come up with your premises, how all of that. Yeah. So like you said, you kind of just started like, I'm going to talk about my life. But as you've, gained knowledge and experience, what is that like for you now to write jokes?
It's still, my process is, because again, I never really, I just kind of fell into comedy. Most people have like studied it, or they even taken classes before and all of that, and how to set up a joke. So for me, it's more like, I don't sit and write. A lot of comedians and even Tony's like, yo, how often are you writing? And I'm like, I don't really do that, but because my process is different, I can't just say, it's not like, what do I think is funny? Or shit just comes to me. Sometimes it's random as hell. I could be driving and I'll do a voice note on my phone, or I might be in the shower and think of something. It's usually is based off of my experiences, or it's based off of all comedians is based off their perspective of things. But my process is more like, God just gives me things. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like things just, my life is random. If you follow me on social media, you see every single day the most random shit happens. And I also I travel a lot, so I have different experiences from there, and that kind of opens my eyes to other things and other thoughts. And then I usually just jot stuff down. I never really fully write out a joke. I'll kind of write out the premise of it, and I'll even maybe name it and just jot down some points of it. And then right. Of course, with all comedians, every time you tell it, it might be slightly different. So yeah, usually it's late at night. Stuff comes to me a lot late at night. And it's not always the whole joke. It might just be one little thing. or I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, yo, that's something. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'm just gonna jot it down, and then it just kind of starts to come to me.
Okay. First off, have you bombed yet?
So, and to me, I won't say that I bombed, but I've had shows that I felt like wasn't great. But I've never been booed. I've never been like, the crowd is like, okay, you know, it's never been silent. And I'm not in the most humble way, because I know all comedians bomb. So I'm just kind of waiting for that day to happen. But I've had shows where I did this one show and it just wasn't a good space. It was like music, people were dancing, they had people over here painting. It was like my homeboy had this exhibit almost, and it just wasn't the right space. There were no chairs. You at the bar, people over at the bar talking, people standing up. And that was difficult to me. I felt like it wasn't a good show. And then somebody that was there was like, yo, that was a great set. And I'm like, it didn't feel like it. But I think the energy was just so, comedy is very specific. Like, so yeah, I haven't had that moment about, but I've had times where I did a joke and I'm like, that don't really work. Or part of that don't work. Like I can feel it right then. And I just try to like, and that's something that over time you kind of work on not showing it. Cause my homeboy pointed it out. Like I could tell, he was like, that didn't even have to be funny. It was cool. Like, but when it didn't hit how you thought it was, I could see it, and you did kind of like look down. And I was like, oh shit, I always like record myself so I can see. And I'm like, oh, that's a telltale sign of like, I felt like that shit was gonna be hit. It's gonna be funny.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes you just gotta roll with it because they didn't even know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You let them know when you look down or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I tried stand up one time.
Really? When? No, I didn't know.
Yeah, listen. So I kept telling my wife, like, man, I'm funny. Like, I could do this, right? I could. And she's like, you ain't gonna do it. And so one night they had an open mic, and I went down there, and I really like had wrote some jokes out, and it was this long sign up sheet, and I think I was like number 28 out of 30. So I'm sitting there the whole time watching the other comedians, and I'm like, I'm drinking because I'm nervous, and man, by the time I got up there, when I say stunk it up, like I don't even really remember what I said, but they was like, nah, get this nigga. So there's some footage of that somewhere that'll never see the light of day.
Please could be recording, because I would love to see it.
Oh, it's recorded, and I think if I ever mess up, she got it, and if I ever mess up, she might put it out to the people. But
I would love to see this, because that's the thing too. Like, you have a lot of people that are funny, because you've always been funny. You know, we've always, man, 713 with the court.
That's all we did was crack jokes.
But yeah, but it's the difference between like that and being on the stage, or even like comedic acting, or even improv, or even like, you know, versus actually like doing stand up. And that's one thing too. You mentioned like one thing I don't do is I never drink before I go on stage.
And you shouldn't. So from a first and last time stand up comedian, you probably shouldn't drink before you go up on stage. Do you find yourself having to specify, you know, like right now, like you said, you got people who are serious stand-ups, you have people who are more pushing the social media content, and it's like almost like it's being split into categories. Do you ever find yourself having to say like, well, I do stand up too, or I can do the social media, where people are looking for one thing or the other?
I would say maybe the social media, because I never really got off into that. I find myself now having to tell people like, oh, I act, because I feel like I'm known more now for doing stand-up than acting. But I never really got off into the social media platform, or, you know, doing skits and stuff like that, or content, which is something that some of my homies, some of my comedian homeboys have been on my head about, because it is, you know, it is an avenue. But my heart just really isn't into it, to pour that time and passion into it. I love stand-up. Like, I love live audience. I love that. But I also realize that people, you know, they want some content. So I try to put stuff out here and there. So if anything more so, I would have to remind people or tell people that, hey, I can do content. But I try to be very careful about that, because I don't want to be thrown in that box, or I don't want to just, you know.
So you do feel like that's a thing where if you do that too much, then somebody will say, oh, she's a internet or an Instagram.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because it's like, casting directors or people in the industry sometimes will take people, you know, social media influencers and be like, oh, they're a comedian. And then stand-up comedians are like, nah, they don't do stand-up, right? Because it's a different art. And no disrespect, but it's a completely different art. And you have a lot of them that people are giving them and paying top dollar for them to come perform, and it's not good. Again, no shade to somebody, because that's not what they do. You can't just take, I do 10-minute skits that I edited 15 times till I can do 30 minutes of stand-up, right? So you do have that distinction, and people try to, you know, separate themselves from being this or that. I think you can do both. Like, I think Tony Baker is a great example of who's one of my favorites. Hilarious, and also he puts out social media content. But I think people know he's a stand-up. But sometimes, because even Tony will post sometimes, like, I think I gotta remind y'all niggas, like, I do stand-up. So I think that it can be, you know, it can be where you become this one thing, or become this social media thing. And I think it's not in the comedy world. I think it's not a lot of respect necessarily put on that, and that's not what I do. So again, no shade, whatever your lane is, but that's not my lane. So it's like, I'll put some content out here and there, but it's not. I'm not sitting out just shooting 20
like
skits.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned like Tony Baker, he's one of my favorites. Like, I mean, from stand up to his Instagram to the voiceovers, like, dude is really sharp. He's super smart. What is that like, being around other comedians and people who are so funny? What are those like? What are y'all conversations like? What goes on when y'all all get together?
First of all, it's a mess. It's like, I mean, it's a good time. Like, it's literally a good time. But at first, I would come around and I would I felt like I was almost dimming my light a little bit, because I'm like, I don't, you know, I'm not as funny, or I don't have as much, or whatever. And then it was like, nah, what? Are you crazy? But more than anything, and I tell them this all the time, because I just believe in giving people their flowers while they can still smell them. I tell them this all the time. It's never a time that I'm with Tony or Tahir or Kev on stage or Tony Rock or any of them that I'm not just inspired, that I'm not motivated. Like, I come to the crib, I don't care what my plan was that day, and I end up working on something. Like, I've been writing a series myself, and watching them just build their own platform, build their own content, like how hard they were. We were shooting a show for Kev on Stage Studios for his streaming app, and in the middle, like, we had a quick break. Tony is over there doing voiceovers, and he's doing like he does animal ones, right? So he's running so that you can feel the, in his voice, and you're like, what the fuck is? So just to see like the dedication and see how much work that they put in, but also to see like the fruits of that and what comes out of it is always motivating and inspiring for me. So I love it. And then any questions that I have or certain things that I'm like, I don't really know how to do this, but I want to do that. Like, they're always very helpful. And that's the thing, is like being in a circle of people who are uplifting and not like, oh, I got mine, you better figure out how to get yours.
Right. Now, you had mentioned earlier, like, as far as the whole, getting a call from Tyler Perry Studios, being involved in projects with some of the most amazing, prolific, actors and actresses that we've seen. Yeah. What is that? Have you ever been starstruck, I guess, in all of your years out there? Have you been in a moment? Because you are real, I don't know inside your head how you be, but you real chill. So I'm trying to imagine you. Have you ever been around somebody where I'm just like, yo, that's...
I would say 2.5, 2.25, 2. So the first time was Angela Bassett. And this was like when I was out here the first time, or when I came back? When I was out here the first time. When I stopped working in my field, I was doing background on a show, ER. And I learned a lot, but I was like, this ain't paying the bills. They're not paying me what they're paying Angela. But she was on that season. And the first time I saw her, I walked in her trailer. And you're never supposed to do that, right? But also, I know her and Tasha was really good friends. She's like Tasha's mentor. So she was super sweet. She was super, like, just kicking it. She was like, wait, what's your name? Like, you didn't even tell me your name. And I realized, like, oh, shit, what's my name? Like, and that's when it hit me, like, I'm really starstruck, right?
Yeah.
Because I love Angela Bassett, like, as an actress, and even though I don't personally know her like that, but just what she represents and stands for as a Black woman. And I mean, she looks fucking amazing for her age. I was just blown away by her skin. I was just like, So that was one time. The second time was the half-ish was when I met Nas. I wasn't really starstruck, but y'all know Nas is like my favorite. And then when I found out, because I didn't know in the movie, the Tyler Perry movie, that Felicia Rashad was in there, and I'm like, this is Claire Huxtable, right? So I'm like reading the script, and then finally they send the call sheet out and all the names on there, and Grandma Cicely, which although I didn't have any scenes with her, I'm just honored at the fact that my name is in the credits of a movie that she's in.
Which movie was this? Was The Family That Prayed?
This was a Fall from Grace.
A Fall from Grace. Okay. Yeah.
So when I saw that, I think it was that morning that I woke up. Was it before? I think it was that morning when I saw the call sheet and I saw her name, and I was just like, and I had been working on my shit, like going over my lines, all of that, and I'm ready. And then I wake up and I'm like, how am I supposed to? And her dressing room, her room was right across from mine. So I'm just like, the whole time I'm like, and you don't want to be that, especially because I'm working on this project. So I don't want to seem like I can't carry myself or I can't still do my job.
Right.
But I'm not gonna lie, like that's Claire Huxtable right there. So that was hard.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would have to imagine being out there as long as you've been out there, like, you know, you probably run into people or you see people in passing, but to be in a close proximity like that has to be crazy.
Yeah, and I'm always just like, you know, they're human beings, and I can respect your art and your craft. Like with Nas, I wasn't really starstruck, but that's like my favorite rapper. So I do see people all the time. One day it was so funny. I bumped into Tay Diggs like 3 times to the point where we were like, okay, what the fuck is going on in the same day? But I'm never like, you know, it's like, yeah, whatever. But those two, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you, okay, well, I know with the pandemic and everything, you know, everything's been a little crazy, but what are some of the things that hopefully once things get back in motion, I know you said you're working on your own series. Like, what else are you working on? What you got going on?
Right now it's super slow motion. So my own series is the main thing I'm looking forward to because I know I'm gonna have to do probably another rewrite on it, but I finally got it like finished. And as far as like the cast and everybody that I want, I just know it's gonna be dope. And it's a comedic series loosely based on my life, from, you know, me transitioning from like getting my master's degree, coming out here and all of that. So I'm super excited to shoot that because it's something of my own. After that, I'm ready to just get back on the stage. Honestly, I don't have anything. I do have another project with Kev that they're putting on hold. I don't know when they're gonna shoot that. But other than that, I don't really have anything lined up. Yeah, in terms of like TV, film, or commercial, because it's just all it's for me. It's been super slow, but I am excited and ready for it when things open back up that I can get back to auditioning. I am debating upon doing a podcast. I don't know exactly. I'm kind of leaning towards it. But I think if anything, this pandemic has just made me kind of like, okay, let me get in my own creative bag and let me start thinking about what I can do, you know, for myself, what I can create for myself, because I don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen with another project.
You know what, the start of the pandemic had, like, you know how everybody was like, well, it's forcing you to, like you said, get in your creative bag, find different ways to put out content. And when it first started for me, I had like the reverse feeling. So my bread and butter being out here in Ohio is the comedians coming through, right? That's where I get my, you know, when they're coming to the clubs, when they're coming to do these, you know, theaters or whatever, I'm at them. Like, hey, yo, let me try to. So when all of that closed, I kind of just shut down. Like March, April, May, I was just like, I don't know if I really want to do the IG live or the, you know, but I looked and everybody else was like, you know, like nobody, it seemed like everybody took that opportunity. It was like, okay, I can figure out how to do this by myself. So did you get a lot of hustle from that, just with everything shutting down and you having to figure out different avenues to get stuff done?
Yeah, I think after maybe like the first 2 months, I'm not gonna lie, I was chilling because I realized that I needed that break. I didn't know my body needed it, my brain needed it. Like the first 2 months, I was like, yo, and also I felt like I'm like, God is speaking to us in this pandemic. And I just felt like, let me take this time, even though, and it was hard because people are expecting content. People are expecting me to put stuff out. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a human being in this pandemic too. So let me take this time to work on me. And it was so many things that I worked on myself that I was like, I don't even know who you are. And y'all look in the mirror like, who are you, right? But she better. Whoever she is, she better. So I took that time to work on me. I took the time to get rest. I took that time to just, reach out to my family. I got a large family, and I don't always call all of my aunties, and I feel bad about that. So the first couple of months, not really. And then after that, and also I was like, I think the possibilities of what I could work on was, I don't know. I think I just wasn't in that mode. And then it was like, okay, this pandemic gonna be here for a while. And like I said, just kind of, like you said, seeing other people like, okay, well, this is an avenue, or I can do this, or I can do that. And social media and the internet, I mean, is such a big part of our lives now, and it's such a platform now that I'm like, okay, let me start using that. Whereas before I was kind of against it, like, because I really wanted to get off of social media. But it's like, how can I? If I'm a comedian and actress, and I kind of, I have to be on it. So yeah, after a while, it started making me look at like, and then I just started thinking, I think it put a fire under me to just start. Because I would always kind of talk myself out of it, like, oh, well, I don't have enough followers to do this, or I don't, it's like, just start, and it's going to grow, and it's going to come.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Michi705 in the comments, he wanted to know, do you have a top 5 comedians? Top 5 comedians of all time?
I don't have any particular order, except the number 1 is Dave Chappelle. After Chappelle, or not after, but the other 4, I would say, Martin, for sure. And I feel like even more so off the stage, I feel like what he did with the TV show is just like, nobody can do that shit.
Yeah.
I'm a big Gerard Carmichael fan. I love dry comedy too. I think he's kind of slept on. Who else would be in my top 5? Cat Williams. Eddie Murphy.
You said that like reluctantly almost.
Eddie Murphy.
I mean, it's hard with Eddie, just as far as from a stand-up perspective, because the body of work are literally 2 specials. You know what I mean? So we don't have, but he'll always be, he'll always be in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like I also got to his special so late. Like I watched Raw or Delirious, one of them, maybe like a couple years ago. And it's different when you watching it back then than to watch it now. Because I was like, But I definitely think he's funny as hell, like in all his movies and everything like that. So yeah, he's definitely on that list.
Now, I'm glad you said that. I got a couple more questions, but I'm glad you just said that you watched Raw or Delirious. You don't know when. Why did it take you so long to get to Black cinema and Black content? Like, I remember back then, I'm like, wait, you ain't seen what? Like, what? I need to understand how Keysha E from Detroit, Michigan did not see any of this stuff.
Okay, first of all, guys, I'm working on it. Give me some credit, okay? So I think the reason that I haven't seen, because I started breaking it down, because my brothers be so frustrated, especially my little brother who's 8 years younger than me. He's like, I saw this. How you didn't see it?
Right.
But the reason I didn't see a lot of movies when I was younger was because even though I had that bug for acting, the time, like to sit down for 2 hours and watch a movie, I used to go to school all year round a lot of times. So like I would have my regular school year, and then in the summer I would be like in the school program, or like high school I was on like at Wayne State on campus throughout the summer. So I didn't have a lot of time. Then I played sports, and then I, like I said, I took violin lessons and piano lessons and stuff like that. And then I still wanted to have some time to kind of play with my friends when I can. So sitting down to watch a 2-hour movie just wasn't. And I think I was also, when I think back like 10-year-old, 11-year-old Keysha, like I was dead ass like reading books. I was like taking apart my computer, trying to figure out like, like that's where it was at for me. So I would see some stuff from time to time, but for the most part, like.
So give the people a couple examples of movies that you didn't see until way later.
So okay, I recently saw Coming to America, right? And listen, when I tell you I found this dude on Facebook to apologize. So when I was in high school, this guy will always be like, "What is that, velvet?" And I was just so irritated because first of all, this is a choice school. You have to take a test to get in this school. You're supposed to be smart to be here, and her shirt is cotton. And these people would laugh, and I'm like, so don't nobody know their fabrics? So I'm like, we need to have we need to implement another course in here. We need to have a course on fabrics, because I don't understand.
Right.
And for the longest, that shit was just like, and then I watched it, and I was like, oh shit, oh my god. And I literally found him on Facebook, like, I gotta apologize. So Coming to America. What else did I recently watch? Baby Boy, I just saw maybe about a month ago.
I mean, I'm not tripping on Baby Boy, because even though BET show it, 32 times a month, I ain't tripping on that one. But it's some other ones.
And see, that's where I'm like, Black people need to get on one accord, because some people like, this is a must see, and then I see it and I'm like, that's 2 hours of my life I'm not gonna get back. And then some people like, oh no, you ain't have to see that. I'm like, well, we gotta get on one accord. I just watched Poetic Justice like maybe 2 weeks ago. What else? Life. I did see Life.
Now that's I'm not feeling that. Go ahead though. Go ahead.
You not feeling Life?
I'm not feeling that you just now seeing Life. That
because
like,
it became a collective effort. My friends was like, listen, we're gonna get together. So I started doing Soul Food Sundays. I'm like, I'm gonna cook, y'all come over, y'all tell me which movie, because I don't even know where to start, and we'll start doing that. But we only got to 1 week because somebody shitted on my floor, and that was a wrap. So I saw Life.
somebody did what?
Somebody shitted on my floor. Yeah.
You care to elaborate, or you just gonna leave it right there?
I don't know if they was lactose in the macaroni and cheese didn't hit them. I don't know. So I took a picture. I realized it after everybody had left. I go in the bathroom and I took a picture and put it in the group chat. Like, shout out to whoever shitted on my floor. One and done. Soul Food Sundays is one and done. So then I used to have power parties, right? We would watch Power. So people was hitting me like, yo, when Power came out, I was like, did y'all forget somebody? You think because it's a different type of party, y'all, nobody's coming back ever. No. So yeah. So I saw Life.
Oh man. Yeah,
and I got a second movie that we're actually about to watch.
I'm gonna need some details on that, like, people just coming and shitting on your floor. But I'm happy that you've taken the initiative to go watch these movies. I'm
trying.
I'm gonna send you a list later, and I'm gonna see what you've seen so far. I'm gonna give you some movies to watch.
My homegirl sent me a list of like 80 movies on it, and I said it's gonna take a long time, because when I crossed out the ones that I have seen, I was like, this list is. So we're working on that. But I got something. I'm actually gonna watch it, and then I got something for y'all that's coming. Oh, that's coming. I don't know how much I can say about that, but when you ask me what I have in the future, I'll post it and everything. So something is coming out soon regarding me and these Black movies.
Okay.
So I will make it worth y'all while.
Let everybody know like where you most active at. I know for me, I catch you on Instagram the most when you talk to your neighbor.
Oh man, Rick.
Yes. Like that's an actual. You made that into a series, and he just be going, talking. And I be listening too.
Oh my god! Like when people come over here to visit me, they be like, my friend Shannon came over and she was like, I want to go talk to him, and he wasn't outside. And I was like, I mean, you can go knock on his door. I don't know how much time you got, but you can definitely go knock on his door. So I wrote him in my series, and I'm like, I need him to play it. Like I don't want to even cast just a white older old man. Right. I need it to be him. Or I was also debating about just using some of the footage that I have already, because when I say he got all the tea, and I haven't seen him in like a week, so I know when I see him,
he gonna have
all the tea. It was an awkward moment last week. He was talking about the dude as he walked up, and I'm like, awkward.
So is there anywhere outside of Instagram, like where do you want people to check for you? And I mean, and stuff that's already come out, things that people can watch, like all of that stuff.
So I am most active on Instagram. I've been, like I said, trying to minimize my social media use. Like I deleted my Twitter. I check Facebook, but not really sometimes, just because I've been trying to like just be more present. But for sure, Instagram, anything that I have coming up, I will post on my Instagram. That's where I post a lot of my stuff. I am planning to, this is on my list, on my quarantine list, is to get some more content on YouTube. As of right now, I literally have nothing on my YouTube. But I will post that once that comes out as well. I'll let you guys know. What I have out right now, you can check me out on For the Love of Jason on... Well, it was UMC. They just changed it to All Black, which is a streaming service. It's basically like a All Black Netflix. Like they have a lot of shows, movies, everything on there. You can also catch me on the movie For the Love of The Fall from Grace is on Netflix, so that's still on there. I'm on 2 seasons of Revolt TV, Funny AF, and you should be able to still, if you have Revolt TV, you should be able to still find that, or on demand. They play reruns a lot too. And then I have some more comedy that will be out on the Kev on Stage Studio app, which is another all-black streaming platform with content. It has comedy, it has like short films and different series and stuff like that, which is on, I think it's $6 a month. So my Keep Your Distance comedy, that set will be on there. And then, I am on a podcast. It's not only mine, but it's Malik S. and also Hess West. We have a podcast called Nobody Asked Me. And that's on YouTube. Yeah, okay. So and that's why I was like, I gotta revamp my YouTube and get all of this. And the links are on my in my bio on Instagram, but I gotta kind of revamp and get all of my stuff together on YouTube. So I'm trying to be more, because here's the thing people don't know is like I'm really 62 years old. So like all of this technology and these social medias, I'm trying to get with it, y'all, but I'm an old lady. So.
Oh man, you were then, you are now. I was telling my wife, I was like, I don't really know if she might try to slide this in or not. So I was like,
the light.
So
the light. Yeah.
No, that'll be the next, and that's the next interview.
If you allow me to tell the story, I'll give you the car story.
That's part 2. We won't talk about that right now, but just know that Keysha had a graduation party, and if you ever seen a house party where Groove was trying to dance with Kid and he spent around and hit the ground, some things had transpired that day. But
some things had transpired. A lot of alcohol was what transpired. When I say Marcus was lit, my grandma was like, I don't think he gonna make it.
Hey, anytime you get like that around grandma, man, party over.
Man, party it was so funny. And party then he went outside, it was like the light. It was like these lights outside, like on the walk path, like just regular lights. It was like the light.
Do you know that is the drunkest I've ever been in my life, like ever. And I slept for about 18 hours. Like we drove back to Ypsilanti. I obviously couldn't drive back. Somebody had to drive me back. I went to my apartment and slept for, oh my goodness.
Man, good time. Used to be the days. We stayed across. Did you stay there?
No, I was just over there because y'all was
over there.
I stayed across the tracks, and I would always come to Woody because everybody was over there.
Man, we had, like me, my homegirl TC, then some of our homeboys who was also friends with Marcus stayed right across from us in this little townhouses. And like, it was never a dull moment. When I tell you, listen, it would just be a random Tuesday. That when we was playing our it was just like, why are we doing this on a Tuesday? We got class in the morning.
Yeah. We got bottles of liquor that are in plastic bottles that you get from the grocery store.
No, I remember one time I came over there and I was about to pour it. He was like, don't pour that. And I'm like, why? And he was like, because that's really, it was like 5 o'clock or something. They put in a Ciroc bottle for the hood rat. It was like, don't, or Grey Goose. It was Grey Goose at the time. They was like, listen, don't do that because that ain't the real.
Yeah, don't touch that. That's for, you know what I mean? But
the scallywags.
Shout out to all the homies at EMU. Shout out to TC, man. That was my girl. I ain't talked to her in forever, but
yeah, those good old days.
Those was great times, man. You know what I mean? But I appreciate us being able to, keep in touch all of these years. And like I said, anytime I reach out to you, if it's trying to, get at a comedian for an interview or whatever the case may be, like you've never just been like, I don't know who this is, or I'm not going, you always looked out. So I appreciate you for that.
Always.
And, good luck with everything. I know you got more in store, so hopefully we can do it again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. This has been so fun.
Always. I'm going to hit you up with that list of movies soon.
I am trying. Listen, I just went and got 10 movies for my homegirl the other day, and I ordered Friday after next Friday, one of them Fridays. The Wiz. I didn't know that was a thing.
What you mean you ain't know?
I was like, I saw The Wizard of Oz. I don't know nothing about.
I mean,
I ordered. Damn, what was the other one? I just ordered 3 movies on Amazon. The actual DVD, so y'all know it's real.
I mean, The Wiz, I ain't gonna hold you. It's not that spectacular, but you need
That's
to see
why
it.
I need y'all to get on one accord. I got The Color Purple, which I'm like, let me fix me a cocktail because I can tell this already gone.
Oh, The Color Purple is stressful, so get your mind right for that. It's gonna be a little stressful, but I'm gonna check in with you. Like I said, hopefully we can do it again, and eventually one day when I get to the West Coast, I'm definitely hitting you up first, and you're gonna make me famous.
For sure, let's do it.
All right, Keith.
All right, bye.